So, InfoSecurity magazine shared an article titled New York IT Supervisor Charged with Crypto Mining. After months of racking up thousands of dollars in utility bills and spiking the office's temperature by about 20 degrees, the supervisor was busted for mining cryptocurrency on the county's dime. So he'd been an employee for over 20 years, but recently decided to add this side gig, installing 46 devices in 6 different rooms inside the county center, hiding them beneath floorboards and inside or on top of server racks, even inside an unused electrical wall panel. So this not only skimmed resources and cost taxpayers money, but it also put the county's infrastructure at risk. So beware that not all side gigs are harmless. Sarah Armstrong Smith shared Microsoft security blog with Brett Arsenault, the corporate VP and CISO for Microsoft, along with Jeff Belknap, the CISO for LinkedIn. It was titled Why Diversity is Important for Strong Cybersecurity Team. So, because cybersecurity as an industry is so new, these professionals likely didn't study security in school. And with many self taught or having degrees in things like business or political science or even art history, with the industry projected to triple year for year, the skill gap is a very real thing. So, with very few candidates having a cyber degree and 20 years of experience, instead, they suggested that you should consider candidates that can process and analyze a collection of information and understand your technologies and what the organization is trying to accomplish with the tools available. Being an inquisitive and passionate problem solver with raw skills can go a really long way too to add the valuable perspective to your new cyber teams. They also stress the value of compassion and empathy to attract and retain the best talent. So, really great insight here. I'll be sure to link it for you all. Mark Crudgington shared a CSO online article that I thought was really, really helpful. 8 pitfalls that undermine security program success. So it starts with reminding us that some of the biggest breaches have come down to really small mistakes, like when the hackers used a compromised password to access the company network via VPN in the May 2021 Colonial Pipeline attack. Or when a widely known vulnerability that hadn't been patched yet was the entry point for the 2017 Equifax attack. And when a Bitcoin scam on Twitter started with a spear phishing attack on Twitter employees. It warns us of 8 easy to overlook pitfalls that can undermine an otherwise successful security strategy, starting with talking about security risk rather than business risk. When they don't see information security as a business risk, and when they see it only as a technology risk, then they don't see how it's fully embedded into all aspects of the business. As a result, CISOs just don't have the full seat at the table. They don't report to an executive, and instead, they're reporting to 2 or 3 layers down, and they don't have the input into the strategy at the executive level. Next was overemphasizing compliance. While CISOs can't ignore the compliance standards that they must meet, they also just can't assume that meeting required standards confirms that they're safe and secure. Next was failing to move fast enough. Some 84% of the 4,300 responding developers said that they're releasing code faster than ever before, but almost half, 42%, said that security testing happens too late in the process, with nearly the same percentage saying that it was difficult to identify and address those vulnerabilities at that stage. And moreover, 37% said that tracking the status of bug fixes was challenging, and 33% found remediation prioritization difficult. Next was always focusing on the urgent. CISOs and their teams can be become so consumed with dealing with the most immediate needs that they face, even if they're low level issues that have no capacity to address strategic priorities. They spend their days chasing those minor issues that pop up instead of strengthening security for the more critical elements of the organization. Next was focusing way too much on tools and technologies instead of stakeholders and their needs. CISOs who don't prioritize stakeholder engagement are also more likely to face resistance from their executive colleagues and possibly even see their funding for these projects clipped. So CISOs may look at their strategies and think that they did everything, but they won't have a full picture of the enterprise risk unless they're working with the stakeholders to co-create and co-design the cybersecurity strategies alongside the business strategies. Next was keeping security within the security department. We talk about this one all the time. A click on the wrong link can undermine the whole CISO agenda. CISOs must develop effective security awareness and training programs aimed at helping all employees understand that they have a role to play in security. Culture is super important because it is a force multiplier for the CISO and his or her organization. And almost every attack is accomplished today through a compromised credential or some violation of personal trust, social engineering, phishing, or getting a password. So, effective security has to make everyone who is a target more aware of those risks, and it has to include making security everyone's job. Next is overlooking your own security workers. CISOs who neglect their teams and their culture for the security department will quickly find that their security program suffers as a result as well. People also often think that team toxicity or poor functioning affects just the individual, but it really affects the whole posture and risk of the organization. Next was falling for new stuff. CISOs have their pick of a growing number of emerging technologies and processes, such as extended detection and response, but behavioral analytics and threat hunting and zero trust model. But those won't deliver the real security gains if the CISOs aren't executing perfectly on the more basic elements of a solid security program, and if they haven't tuned them all to the specific needs of their unique organization. So, really helpful article. I'll be sure to link that one for you. James W. shared technology review article titled "A Horrifying New AI App Swaps Women into Porn Videos with a Click," offering the technology under the guise of being a safe and responsible tool for exploring sexual fantasies. It allowed users to upload any photo into an adult video. From the beginning, deepfakes or AI-generated synthetic media have primarily been used to create, pornographic representations of women, who often find this personally, professionally, socially, and psychologically devastating. The original Reddit creator who popularized this technology face swapped female celebrity faces into the porn videos. To this day, research estimates that between 90 and 95% of all online deepfake videos are non consensual, and around 90% of them feature women. So, in many cases involving men, deepfake gay porn, though limited, poses an additional threat to men in countries where homosexuality is criminalized. And this is the case in 71 jurisdictions globally, 11 of which it is punishable by death. The repercussions can stay with these victims for life. The images and videos are difficult, if not impossible, to remove from the internet, and new material can be created at any time. The victims say that it affects their interpersonal relationships, their ability to get jobs. Every single interview you go for, it might be brought up a potential romantic relationship. Some think that banning this content from social media platforms and perhaps even making the creation or consumption illegal would prove a more sustainable solution. That means that websites are treated in the same way as the dark web material. And if it gets driven underground, at least it puts it out of the eyes of everyday people. Another example of weaponized misogyny that requires swift and severe legislation as this tech evolves. Bob Carver shared a ZDNet article titled "Over 60 Million Wearable Fitness Tracking Records Exposed Via Unsecured Database." So on June 30th this year, researchers discovered a database online that was not password protected. Over 61 million records were contained in this data repository, including vast swaths of user info, which could be considered sensitive, such as names, dates of birth, weight, height, gender, and GPS logs, among other data sets. While sampling the set of approximately 20,000 records to verify the data, the team found that the majority of data sources were from Fitbit and Apple's Health Kit. So another reminder to enter as little information as possible when you sign up for these services, or even enter false information whenever that's possible, to minimize the impact from these types of compromises. And GSX is right around the corner. We are planning to safely meet and get together. So, for all my connections, that will be in Orlando or later on in the week in Miami. Whether you are part of the security crowd or not, it would be great to actually put names with faces. So, feel free to reach out if you have some time, and we'll try to connect. Other than that, that's what I have for you all this week. I hope everyone is well, staying healthy, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.